Taiwan prepares for China cutting internet. Nvidia touches $1 trillion mark. China urges Japan to halt export restrictions on chips. Ukraine aid proposes post-war demilitarized zone in Russia. IAEA final review before discharge of Fukushima nuclear plant water. El Salvador court sentences ex-president to 14 years in prison. Halifax wildfire leads to evacuation of thousands of homes. Japanese Prime Minister fires his son after party at official residence.
Hello, I'm Wade Lee. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It is Wednesday, May 31st, and here are your top stories. Under threats of earthquakes and potential conflict with China, Taiwan's Minister of Digital Affairs Audrey Tang said Taiwan was starting disaster response plan calls for the establishment of 700 satellite receivers placed all over Taiwan. French Luxembourg company SCS Global now has 2 satellite receivers in Taiwan for its satellite in medium Earth orbit. OneWeb, a satellite provider with investors including the UK government, Indian conglomerate Bharti Global, and SoftBank Group, has signaled its interests.
We've seen a live example of the internet cut off and people.
Bloomberg reported an initiative from Amazon.com, Project Kuiper, also has shown its interest. But neither of those is currently available. Only Starlink Inc.'s SpaceX satellite constellation has the capability to provide live coverage right now. Tang describes Starlink as a potential provider, but adds that she's after more than one participant in order to ensure that when there's adversity, multiple constellations will have to be destroyed or disrupted to deny us communication with the outside world.
Nvidia Corp's market valuation fleetingly crossed the $1 trillion threshold on Tuesday after the chipmaker's artificial intelligence prospect vaulted it into an elite club of just 5 American companies. The stock rose as much as 7.7% earlier in the session, putting Nvidia well into $1 trillion territory. Alphabet Inc., Amazon.com Inc., Apple Inc., and Microsoft Corp are the only other U.S. business to have trillion-dollar valuations, and fewer than 10 companies globally have achieved this distinction.
Nvidia stock hit a record high on Thursday, riding high on the artificial intelligence boom here.
Nvidia was up 3% to $401.11 as of the close in New York, putting its market capitalization at $990.7 billion. No other company embodies Wall Street's current obsession with AI more than Nvidia. It has become the world's biggest maker of the specialized chips needed to power a new generation of AI products, surpassing Advanced Micro Devices Inc. and Intel Corp. In capability, just as the viral success of ChatGPT has virtually every company around the world baking AI into its operations.
Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao urged Japan in a statement Monday to halt semiconductor export controls, calling it a wrongdoing that seriously violated international economic and trade rules. The statement from the Chinese Commerce Ministry also said China is willing to work with Japan to promote practical cooperation in key economic and trade areas. Japan in January agreed to match U.S. export controls that will limit the sales of some chip-making tools to China.
China's access to semiconductors could take yet another hit soon.
Along with the Netherlands, has placed restrictions on the export of 23 types of semiconductor manufacturing equipment to China. The Group of 7 advanced nations this month agreed to de-risk from China, reducing their exposure to the world's second-largest economy. Last Friday, Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan Nishimura Yasutashi met with U.S. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo, and the two agreed to deepen cooperation in the research and development of advanced chips and technologies such as quantum computing and artificial intelligence.
Ukrainian presidential advisor Mikhailo Podolyak wrote on Twitter, said on Monday, a demilitarized zone of 100 to 120 kilometers should be established inside Russia along the borders with Ukraine as part of a post-war settlement. Podolyak wrote the zone would be necessary to protect Ukrainian regions from Russian attacks. He wrote the key theme of the post-war settlement should be the establishment of safeguard to avoid the recurrence of aggression in the future.
So if I understand correctly, that's the fifth attack in the past 1.5 weeks.
He made his remarks after the governor of Russia's Belgorod region, which borders Ukraine, called in televised comments for the annexation of Ukraine's Kharkiv region to stop Ukrainian cross-border shelling. To ensure the safety of residents in several frontline Ukrainian regions, Podolyak wrote, it will be necessary to introduce a demilitarization zone of 100 to 120 kilometers on the territory of Belgorod, Bryansk, Kursk, and Rostov Oblast. He said the demilitarized zone could initially have an international presence to control it.
Do today learn. Today is Tuesday.
Commercial.
Traveler 是旅行者。
I have to wait for click.
So he or she is at the Columbia Towers Hotel gift store. 所以他在这个饭店的礼品店，然后他要买东西。Okay, so let's take this chance and listen to the.
学习让生活充满乐趣。Funday 英语。
An International Atomic Energy Agency team arrived in Tokyo on Monday for a final review before Japan begins releasing massive amounts of treated radioactive water into the sea from the wrecked Fukushima nuclear plant, a plan that has been strongly opposed by local fishing communities and neighboring countries. The team, which includes experts from 11 countries, will meet with officials from the government and the plant operator and visit the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant during their 5-day visit.
Japan announced plans in April 2021 to gradually release the wastewater following further treatment and dilution to what it says are safe levels. The plan has faced fierce protests from local fishing communities concerned about safety and reputational damage. Some scientists say the impact of long-term, low-dose exposure to radionuclides is unknown and the release should be delayed. Japan sought IAEA's assistance in ensuring the release meets international safety standards and to gain the understanding of other countries.
A court in El Salvador sentenced former President Mauricio Funes and his justice minister to more than a decade behind bars for their ties to criminal groups and failure to comply with duties. The El Salvador Attorney General's office said on Monday the former president was sentenced to 14 years and his former justice and defense minister to 18. The Attorney General said on Twitter, "We were able to verify that these two former officials negotiated their lives in exchange for electoral favors, acting as gang members."
Funes, who governed from 2009 to 2014 and lives in Nicaragua, was granted Nicaraguan citizenship in 2019. The Nicaraguan constitution holds that no citizen may be extradited. The El Salvador Justice Minister Gustavo Villatoro said on Twitter, "Those engaged in backroom deals at the expense of the blood of Salvadorans have been sentenced to pay in prison for the damage caused to society." El Salvador has arrested more than 68,000 people presumed to be gang members, which is widely popular among Salvadorans.
A wildfire in eastern Canadian city of Halifax led to mandatory evacuation orders for thousands of homes, and officials said residents will not be allowed to return until advised by municipal authorities. Halifax Mayor Mike Savage said the evacuation impacted about 18,000 people. The order issued Sunday covers areas of Hammonds Plains, Upper Tantallon, and Pocwock. These suburb communities are homes to many of the city's workers and are situated about 15 miles from Halifax.
Forest fires also led to evacuations of about 400 homes in the province of New Brunswick over last weekend. Mayor Brad Henderson of St. Andrews, New Brunswick, said on Monday that while progress was made, the fire was still not under control. Halifax Regional Fire and Emergency Deputy Chief Dave Meldrum told reporters on Monday morning the fire burning in the Tantallon and Hammonds Plains area was ongoing. The cause of the fire was still being probed and there were no reports of deaths or injuries.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said Monday that his oldest son and former aide would be replaced after Shukan Bunsun magazine published the image, which were taken in December at an end-year party last week. One photo showed an attendee laying across grand red carpeted stairs, while another showed two people posing behind an official dais with the Prime Minister's seal, with one person making a peace sign.
Kishida said, "His actions last year in a public space were inappropriate and I decided to replace him to have him take responsibility." The government has also said Shitaro will give up severance pay and bonuses. The residence is both a public building designated for official business and state functions, as well as a home. But according to a poll by the Asahi Shimbun, many Japanese voters appear to be opposed to the Kishida family hosting year-end parties for their relatives there.
Now let's take a look at the vocabulary from the news of Taiwan preparing for China cutting internet. Number 1, initiative, 倡议,新方案. Government initiatives to help young people have been inadequate. Number 2, constellation, 一群一组, a constellation of Hollywood talent. Number 3, coverage, 新闻报道. Now a special TV network gives live coverage of most races. Number 4, conglomerate, 企业集团, a media conglomerate. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune in to Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below now to join Funday for free. I'm Wei Li, your host. I'll see you next time.